Table Talk is not your typical D&D TTRPG podcast. We are not here to run you through our whole campaign.
We're here to talk about everything else in the space of tabletop roleplay.
I'm your host, Alejandra Wilhelm.
And I'm also your host, Mariah Gresham.
And we're your tabletop roleplay girlies. Alrighty, and we are live with another episode of Table Talk. Welcome back, and thank you so much for joining us yet again. It's me, your host, Alejandra.
And me, your other host, Mariah.
And today is the day.
Today is the eve. Well, when this comes out, it will not be the eve.
It will not be the eve, but when we are
recording,
it's Dragon Age Eve.
Dragon Eve.
Dragon Eve. And Mom said it's my time to shine and I am allowed to talk about it as much as I fucking want to.
Yeah, we were like going back and forth earlier. Like, what are we going to talk about today? I'm like, I don't know. And I was like, the plot of Inquisition. Kidding, kinda. And I was like, well, I don't think we've ever done a full episode on Dragon Age like we did for Baldur's Gate.
Yeah. We've referenced it in the way of like, I just have an obsession and I have had an obsession for over 10 years.
We talked about it a little bit, but like going into the new game, there are things we would like to discuss.
Yes. And it is technically on brand because it is one of my personal like biggest inspirations for fantasy, TTRPG, and like the way that I would like to run my games and things. Like the way that I will say The Hobbit was my like gateway drug literary wise into fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
Dragon Age was my gateway drug via video games into fantasy.
Fair.
As far as like when the bug bit me, it bit me fucking hard. Yeah. And I've been out here well over 10 years waiting.
Did my waiting 12 years of it. Yeah. But yeah, I've played Inquisition twice, but I just did the first time I played it, I did not do the DLC content because I had messed up the Soulless Romance. So I've played the main game twice, the DLC once. I started on another save just for grins and giggles, but I knew I wasn't going to finish it before Inquisition came out, and I didn't really need to. I know the plot of Origins, and I know the plot of 2. I would like to go through Origins at some point just to get, like you said, do the PC like cheat codey thing where you just basically experience the story in live action. I would like to do that. I do think I should play 2 at some point. Maybe I will after like post Veilguard when that wears off, if I like need a new thing to nibble on.
Highly
do that.
Yeah. And I guess at the top of the hour, before we get too deep into it, if you don't want spoilers for any of the Dragon Age games,
that's true.
Then this is not the episode for you. But if you want to hear me lore dump a metric fuck ton,
basically what you did for me, where I was like, okay, what is this franchise? And you're like, I'm so glad you asked.
You're like, cool, let me sit you down for 3 hours.
Yeah, just walk me through the bank of lore, and I'm like, great. Now I know what's going on. I can make
the gist of what you need to know before going into Inquisition, basically. So yeah, if that's not for you, then go ahead and listen to literally any other podcast episode that we have. If you're here and foaming at the mouth as much as I am for Veilguard, then this is probably the best content for you.
Might I just say to kick things off that you've sent me a couple TikToks, like Broodmother related TikToks, and because I have not played Origins, I did not experience the visceral fear of being in the deep roads and you hang a bad left, and there's that fucking thing.
Yeah, it's real.
I'm so scared that she's gonna make a reappearance in 4K, and I'm playing this on my TV, and that's a lot of Broodmother.
That's much that
I would be confronted with.
Yeah.
If she's back, and I'm scared.
It's also the fact that she's not the only horrific multi-tittied monster we've encountered in the series. There is another one who's slightly hotter, I will say, but still an alarming amount of titty. There's another one, I forgot the name of it. It's in one of the Dragon Age Origins DLCs. equally horrific, and it's like a half woman, half spider situation. But then she's still got
I blocked
lot of
that
titty.
One out. That one ain't for me. That one's worse because arachnophobic.
Yeah,
like too much titty and can move faster. At least
Correct.
You know what the original broodmother is? It mobile, dexterous.
No,
she's a thick bitch.
She's a thick bitch, and she's stationary.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that is horrific. Like I'll tell the audience what I told you in regards to the broodmother. So to picture this, I've been playing Dragon Age Origins. I started playing Dragon Age Origins probably when I was around 14 or so, which to this day is what, like 14 years ago, quite literally. So yeah. And I've played that game multiple fucking times. But in the entrance of me going into high school, there were times when I would bring my little laptop to school. And sometimes during 5th period advisory, or even
during
sometimes
your free period.
During my free period, or even when it was not my free period, I just happened to have the fortune of sitting in a chemistry lab where there was a load-bearing pole right next to my desk. So if the teacher was sitting at her desk while we were supposed to be working, I could literally just pull my laptop out and she couldn't see that I had it out. So
wow.
She'd just be teaching from her desk and I would just be click-clacking away doing Dragon Age.
None
the wiser. And so I did that for quite a bit. And I distinctly remember encountering the broodmother while I was in my chemistry class. And just the visceral reaction I had when suddenly my screen is covered in horrifying titties.
And not in a hot way.
Not even hot titties, just horrific titties.
Like dirty titties.
Dirty titties. And I was like, thank God one of my best friends sits behind me.
What have I done?
Yeah. Because if it was a stranger, it would have been terrible.
You gotta switch schools.
Yeah. Change
Lights
my
out.
name. Yeah.
Okay, but I have a question. That was not the first time you had played Dragon Age Origins.
No.
Okay. So my question to you, my friend, is with all love and light, you knew the broodmother was coming, or did you not have it memorized at that point?
I didn't have it memorized at that point, and I genuinely forgot. Like
you
at
forgot
what
about
point?
That's fair.
Because the
brain
deep roads
blocked her out.
Are deep and dark and long and extensive.
True.
And so
and
I
confusing.
Had genuinely forgotten at what point that bitch shows up.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I think I had happened to like look up and like pay attention for something. And when I looked down, the cutscene is happening. And I was like slowly closing my laptop. As my friend looked over my shoulder, so concerned. And I was like, please disregard whatever you think you saw.
Please disregard
you didn't.
This 8-pack of titties real quick.
No, that was at the dawn of my Dragon Age obsession.
Okay.
So it was not to the point where I have it ingrained into my marrow the way that I do now.
Where you're like, it's 3 lefts and a right, and then it's broodmother time.
Yeah. Because truly that's the experience you've had with me now playing Inquisition.
Yeah. If I can't find something, you've been able to just cold clock that shit like on the phone. Yeah. And you're like, no, it's over the hill and through the fucking woods. And I'm like,
describe what's around you. Okay, cool. You got to go this way.
Yeah. Yep.
Because it's truly, truly ingrained. No, yeah. I played Origins quite literally as many times as there are character combinations that you can make a character. I've played it that many times. And it took me, it was really, most of it was during the summer. So it was really a period of time where, like a fucking mad woman, I would turn that game on, make a character. Within 2.5 days, the game is done. And then immediately, roll credits, create new character.
Rinse and repeat. Yeah. A fresh
rinse and repeat. I was obsessed. Because I just loved the idea of, it was the first game I had ever encountered that had the concept of like your choices matter.
Yeah, and can like affect the story.
Yeah, and like down to the person that you are from the beginning can change where you start the game and how people treat you throughout the game, etc. I just became obsessed with figuring out all the little differences that can happen according to all the different choices.
A human noble like non-spellcaster the first time, and so you got to like marry Alistair and be queen and everything was fine? Or did you get fucked in the end?
I got fucked. And
that's what I thought.
That's really what geared me into like, well, I have to play it again because I can't live in this reality.
That's what I'm afraid of with Veilguard, because there are no guides, and so it's like you can't and Google like, oh, like what do I have to do for this person's romance? And it's like, okay, I only have like one free flirt, or I can't do this, or I have to do this, that, and the other thing. And now everyone is also saying that, like, especially the Lucanus romance, I think, is like easy to mess
yourself out real hard.
And I'm like, what do you mean?
What do you mean it's easy to?
He lives in the pantry. What do you mean it's hard to solve?
You and I are both now experiencing what I had to experience when Dragon Age Inquisition first came out. Mm-hmm. And like you just have to go off vibes, and you are going in blind,
and like live with the consequences
of your actions. And then your second playthrough is like, I have a better idea of what I'm going into, so I know a little bit better about what I should choose and what I should do. Which is why I'm like, I've tiptoed around like, I love the idea of Lucanus, and I love the idea of like a mage Lucanus romance, but I have learned from my experience in the Dragon Age games that I always have an idea of what I'm gonna do, and that gets something else thrown out the fucking window. So I'm gonna go off vibes and just do what feels natural, and then my second playthrough I will actually like gun ho do something.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm not gonna be like devastated if I don't. Like I want my first playthrough to be mage killer Lucanus romance. I want Shadow Dragon backstory just for like fun political leanings. But yeah, if I end up romancing someone else, that's also fine. It's not a big deal.
Yes.
They're all great.
Yeah. I also just finished listening to their like Vows and Vengeance podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's been nice, because then I've gotten a little bit of a deeper dive into like the companion characters and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I was like, man, I feel like Emmerich might sneak up on me. I feel like that little old man with bones.
That old man
is going to sneak up on me a little bit, I think.
I've loved all the memes of like day 29 of trying not to fuck that old man. I can't.
But I think I might end up, I mean, I know I will end up fucking him eventually, but I feel like if I know myself the way I know myself in these games, I feel like I'm going to go in and I'm totally going to be trying to romance Lucanus, and then Emmerich is going to sneak the fuck up on me with some cold clocked line that is just going to have me like, well...
I've also been like re-listening to Magnus Archives, and Emmerich is very is a little bit Magnus Archives coded from the promo stuff we've seen. So I'm like, I think Emmerich might sneak up on me. I think Davrin might also sneak up on me, especially if I play an elf, which I think I'm going to do.
Because he's also will probably sneak up on me, because she's a hot detective mage lady.
Yeah.
I don't know. They're all incredible, and it's gonna be rough. It's gonna be rough for me figuring out who I'm actually gonna go for in the beginning. But yeah, no, it's a time. But so you've now finished Inquisition twice, and you've gotten your canonical soulless romance.
Yes.
Okay.
Done correctly. I knew it was going to happen already. It's just you have to play it through and like experience it fully. It doesn't really count until you do. So yes, I do have like, and that I did my like canon playthrough. The only part of it that I don't accept is because the game fucked me and I didn't get to do Iron Bull's loyalty quest where he doesn't betray you at that last fight and I had to kill him. I don't accept that as part of the canon. He didn't mean it. The game
it was an oops.
I didn't mean it because I made a point to prioritize doing everyone's loyalty quests, even the characters that I don't really fuck with, like Sarah. So we didn't mean it. It was a mistake. Other than that, it's my canon playthrough.
That truly was a fucking time to watch because I was sitting next to you.
And it's that moment, that cutscene where like he gets called and he's like, sorry. And then, I paused it and I'm like, I know when I unpause this game that his token is not going to be I know he's still going to be over on the side with my people and that I'm not down to 3 fucking companions on a very hard DLC. Because, like, the Inquisition DLCs do not play around. Like, they are actually hard. They don't phone it in. I over-level usually in Inquisition so I can just breeze through stuff and so I can, like, do more of the game. You can't really over-level too much by that point because you've already you kind of soft cap yourself at a certain point. It just takes so much XP to keep leveling. That's like you do sort of just have to get good a little bit, and I'm like, so that's already annoying to me. And then fucking Iron Bull, and also why when Iron Bull fights for me, that man goes down like wet tissue paper because his titties are out. But when he fights for his homeland, the Cune, he's durable as anything.
Yeah.
Explain that to me.
He's out here building armor levels on top of his health like it's nobody's business. And you're like, what the fuck?
Because I put heavy armor on that man and he gets one scratch on his titty and he goes down. And I don't understand that. Make that make sense to me. I was so mad. I was
losing my mind because I was like, I had seen you go through the DLC and I was like, yeah, the Chargers are there.
Chargers are still there.
The Chargers are still there. So in my mind, I was like,
it has to be fine. Because you asked me and I was like, no, because what had happened was I knew I did it on my first playthrough when I didn't do the DLC. So I was getting them mixed up in my head. And I was like, oh, I know I've done that quest. So it's like, I'm sure I did it for this one because it's way earlier in the game at this point. And it's like, yeah, the Charger's still there. But also, like, Iron Bull is saying weird shit about how he's still part of the Cune. Or it's like he hasn't heard anything from the Cune. And I'm like, well, but, like, the Chargers are still there. So he can't, it has to be fine, right?
Yeah,
like,
that was
both
like, things that were popping off in my mind that I was like, it's kind of weird that he's saying that because he shouldn't still be able to contact the Cune at all. But I was like, whatever. I mean, the Chargers are there. So, like,
it has to be fine. It did
register in my brain as like, that's off. But I just didn't even think about like asking because I was like, something about it. I was like, my instincts were like, I know these games like the back of my hand and that's not supposed to happen. So, but
like,
I was
this
just
only happens in a certain place. Yeah.
Yeah. But I was like, the math in my head was like, well, the Chargers are there. So there can't.
Yeah.
Surely not. Right. And then he turns on you and my soul left my body. I was like, I can't believe that you're having to have the experience that I had when I went through the game and like, I didn't play. So like my first run through, I did multiple run throughs of Inquisition. And then like I think it was like my second or third that I was like, no, it was my third because my first run through I romanced Cullen, second run through I romanced Solus. Third run through was after like the DLCs had come out and I was like, this is a run that I wanted to go through and like look at a guide and basically get like all of the most broken ass equipment possible like, and like stuff. Min max my fucking character builds and everything. I was like, I just want to see how broken it can get. So I was going for having to get the most like OP items of the game. One of them, the best staff you can get is from Iron Bull's loyalty mission, but you have to have him choose the Cune over the Chargers. So I was like, well, I've never done that choice before, but I already have my like good endings in my pocket.
Yeah.
So I was like, for this playthrough, for this playthrough, I can do it, and like it hurts to do because you love the Chargers, but I was like, you know. Well,
I'll
we'll
just fast forward through those cutscenes. I was
And so that was the run through that I went into Trespasser with. Not fucking thinking again.
So long ago. Yeah.
But the game has a tendency to do that where it's like a choice that you didn't fucking think mattered now fucking matters. And so I get all the way to that point and like Iron Bull and Dorian have romanced each other in that playthrough. Like they're together. And they're doing all their cute shit in Trespasser that like you didn't get to quite see because like you didn't get them to romance in your playthrough.
Yeah.
But they have a lot of cute shit happen in Trespasser and they're talking about each other and to each other and all this the whole time that like, and they were part of my main crew. It was Iron Bull, Dorian, and Varric for me. That's my main crew. So the whole time I'm running around, they're like having these really cute moments where they've like actually developed a genuine relationship and it's not just a hookup thing. And then you get to that point and he betrays you. And like
and
my
what?
Heart sank so deep. And I was like, you're fucking joking. And then I'm listening to fucking Dorian lose his fucking mind as he's like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, what? And so we kill him. And then Dorian afterwards is like, I feel like a fucking fool. Like, you can tell he's going through all the stages of grief. And I was just shook.
Yeah.
Shook to
like
my
the staff wasn't worth it.
No. Oh.
Yeah. I was just angry. I was like, it was like midnight at that point when it happened to me. And I was like, that's enough game for today. And I just turned it off.
That was bad. Oh, no. There's so much about it. Like, and I will say, like, am a little bit peeved in the sense of like that we've waited so long for Veilguard and then the devs are like, hey, only 3 fucking choices matter out of this entire series.
That also confuses me because like the whole Dragon Age Keep thing where like you would go through and you go through all these choices that you make in the game and like that made sense and that was kind of cool because like you can just use like whatever they determine as the default world, but even if you didn't play, like when I first played Inquisition, being able to go through and make the choices for Origins and 2 was nice because you still kind of get to experience the story a little bit.
It's acknowledging that the Origins and 2 are old and really rough to play through if you're currently used to like modern day AAA titles. Yeah. Those are games that like basically only people like me can play through because we have nostalgia for it.
You have to have the like skin in the game. It's like me with like Super Mario 64 and fucking Ocarina of Time and everything where it's like I'm aware the controls are bad.
Yeah.
But I still have an attachment to the game.
Yeah. And so they acknowledge that and give you a way to, still make those choices and be aware of like the cause and effect and all these other things. So it is a little bit of a slap to the face for them to go and do that.
And also Inquisition is such an enormous game.
Yeah.
That I'm like, how... Like, what 3 choices are you making, right? Because it seems like we were talking about this earlier of like, it seems like who drinks out of the well of sorrows, whether it's your Inquisitor or Morrigan, it seems like that would be one of them.
Yeah, I think that's a major one.
But then like, what else? I mean, I don't know if that's counting like who you romanced is like one of those choices or if that's a separate thing.
I would hope that's not like one of the major
I don't think it will be, but like even it's hard to narrow down like 3. If you had to guess what the 3 choices were, like what would you? It's hard for me to even narrow it.
I can't remember. Did they mention that it was only 3 choices from Inquisition or only 3 choices from the entire series?
Oh, I have no idea. I thought for some reason I thought I had read it was only 3 from Inquisition.
Okay.
If it's 3 from the entire series. Literally, fuck if I know. Because, I mean, if it's 3 from the entire series, I suppose, right, from Origins, it would be like maybe who has the god baby with Morrigan.
Yeah.
Because that informed, like, maybe. 2 would be probably something to do with, like, the Chantry. Like, the political leanings.
2, no. I will say with 2, because... Two is an interesting beast in that it's set up a lot differently from Origins and Inquisition. Because there was, stuff with like EA kind of rushing it and whatever, and you can definitely tell when it comes to how the story is paced because Act 1 and Act 2 seem a little bit more fleshed out, but 2 gets a little bit shorter. And then Act 3 is like you feel very rushed, like everything's happening. There's not as many side quests, and then boom, bam, you're at the end of the game. And there's, recycled maps and all sorts of stuff there.
Yeah.
But with 2, you do have choices. There's things that can happen that can vary. but obviously there's the aspect of like the whole Templar and mage conflict. And I think for the most part, I mean, you can do whatever you want with it. I always went the error of like diplomacy and trying to barter for peace because it was very much they were giving you the distinction of like, hey, if you side with one over the other, like there's gonna be bloodshed regardless.
Yeah. So you're going to war, you're just choosing a
side. So for me, because I typically try to get like a good ending on my first run, I was like, well, if I side, never side with the Templars, fuck cops. But
that's like the one thing you've never done is side with the Templars.
Never sided with the Templars, and I don't care. I do not care. But it was either side with the Templars and risk like the mages or whatever. But then the mages were also kind of on their fuck shit a little bit. And so I was like, okay.
There's complications on both sides.
There's complications on both sides. And because they really get into like the whole, like the risk of mages doing blood magic and becoming abominations. So there's like stuff that you're worried about in that regard. And so I was like trying to barter for peace. And then Anders and his fuck ass.
Anders fucks you, yeah.
Anders fucks you. Because he's
Anders
like, hey.
Like, what if suicide Paul?
Bro, I was like, he's just like, hey, I totally have this potion ritual thing that I can do that would separate me from the spirit demon that inhabits my body. So can you just like help me gather some fucking ingredients? Please don't look up on Google what the ingredients could also be used for.
Please retrieve 40 gallons of ammonia, not for any suspicious reason. And it's like, why?
And then he tricks you into assisting him pull off like a 9/11.
Which is worse, right? Like you become complicit.
Yeah.
There's so many things in Dragon Age 2 that are just a slap in the face.
Oh my God.
That's one of the big ones. Yeah, like Hawk's mom died.
Hawk's mom is horrific. Yeah.
A fucking abomination. That's just a side quest. That's just that there's truly 2 is like the one where it's like, what if just emotional damage the whole time?
Yeah. 2 is the one where you're like, hey, I have this merry band of little misfits, and your character is just a little ha-ha jester. However, he will be the most traumatized character in the series.
Yeah. Yep. For sure.
And all of the other ha-ha misfits will also be very traumatized.
It's not a chill time.
Not a chill time. But yeah, no. And so I remember the first time I played through that, and I had done so much.
I would have been irate.
I thought I was like, damn, I really locked in that ultimate ending. I had everyone's approval ratings at max, and I was ready for like this to kind of go off with a hitch. And then that shit happens while you're just fucking strolling.
That's so rude. Like I would have been pissed. Like if not knowing that was gonna happen, like and play it, and you're like, are you like? Then what was all that for?
Like,
why did I do all that work?
The slow turn I gave Anders, and then he's just like unapologetic. I did what I did.
Yeah,
whatever you're comes like, next is what it is.
The roof of the chantry in the sky. I know it's not. Surely it's not.
And I was like, with zero hesitation, I stabbed that bitch.
That's fair, yeah.
Like, he was like, I know you probably have a lot of questions. And I was like, I got none. Shanked. I have no questions for your ass.
None. Because you made me, like, my fingerprints are on the bombs.
Ooh,
you made me an accomplice.
Mad. Actually,
that's rude.
Technically, no. Scratch. My first run was not perfect. I didn't know that you had to lock in a lot of the characters and like their approval. I knew I had a lot of them really high, but like at the end game, you have to have them at max for them not to leave you on certain choices. And so, like stabbing Anders and then siding with the mages could cost you most of your party.
Yeah.
Just dead ass.
Which is also crazy.
Because then they're like, hey, you have to choose. And I'm like, well, I'm going to go with mages. And then they're like, and then Fenris, who I romanced, was like, deuces. And I was like, what are you talking about? That was the worst time I ever had in my life. Because I was like, Fenris fucking left me. Isabella was like off on a ship somewhere.
Yeah.
the other girl, like the other redhead girl, was like, yeah, no, fuck that, and like left.
Meryl.
And I was like, Meryl,
no, not
yeah.
Meryl. Yeah, Meryl.
No.
Yeah.
No, Meryl's the elf. She sided with me. She was
Meryl is an elf. Yeah, Meryl is so she'd be chill with it.
Abilene or something.
Oh, okay, it's fine though.
She was like, no, and dipped. And so I was like that was my worst run ever in a game, and I was like, I finished it off, but it was so dissatisfying because like most of my party fucking left me. Anders blew up the chantry and I killed him.
It's just
so it was me and Meryl in a dream. And I was like, what the fuck? So yeah, it was rough, buddy. But yeah, no, that
and Varric, good old Varric.
Varric stuck by me.
He said, "That's mine. I'm gonna stand beside him."
It was me, Varric, and Meryl, and I think I was down a party member. I had no tank.
That's horrifying. That's truly horrifying.
My 2 tanks left me. No, it was so bad. Yeah, no, it's such a wild series, but like, it became such a foundation of like what I loved in video games in general, and then now, like that I can definitely see the line of like me loving those games going straight into TTRPGs.
Yeah, and the through line is
because the hyperfixation that took me over there is what happens live at a table, because there is just boundless choice and consequence, and the world changes and shifts around you, and that it's just addicting to me, and I love it so much.
Yes, it's so good.
And then
there's
also,
such like
go for it.
And there's such like character driven stories too, which very much like is in line with the types of games we play too.
Yeah.
It's like, it's so good. Yeah.
I still would love, because I have the Dragon Age TTRPG book along with all the other fucking memorabilia that I hoard of it.
Mm-hmm.
I still want one day to run y'all basically through a campaign that is the events of Origins and 2 and Inquisition.
Mm-hmm. I'm down.
Because I just think that would be fun. Like the book itself, I read through it and it gives a lot of interesting stuff, but not necessarily like too much plot. So I was like, I can just use all the information. You know what I do know?
Yeah,
a lot of those fucking games, and I know that most of y'all are not probably going to play through Origins or 2 on your own,
right?
But I think it also would add an element of like interesting. I would be interested to see how the story shifts because of your actions and because of what you do and things like that.
Like what kind of characters we build and like what that means for
the story,
the factions, and
because that do be lore and story that I have deep within my soul, and I feel like I would never have to prep anything.
No, just rock
up and be ready. Oh my god, yeah, no. And then like it's so lore rich, and I've spent the past, especially after Inquisition, because like Inquisition really took me by the throat, in the sense of when I did my first run through and I realized who Solus was.
Yeah.
I was like,
oh no. Yeah.
I have to play this game immediately all over again.
Yeah. There's an entirely different story that I am legally obligated to experience.
Yeah.
Because even pre-Trespasser, it's still so different if you're romancing Solus versus just like a friend or have high approval with him.
Yeah. And so, and like, I mean, the devs did what they were meant to do, and they're like, hey, we're going to make him a lanky, dorky looking bald elf so that people are deterred from.
And then everyone's like, little do you know I'm into that shit.
Yeah. Well, I will say for me, it worked. I had not even a whole lot of interest in him as a character. Like, you did, because like
mine was unfair, because I knew the context and I had already seen fan art, and it's like
you knew the mystique behind that man.
I knew what was up. Yeah. I still think there is a chance, a decently high chance, just knowing who I am as a person, that like the very nerdy, like elven lore dude probably would have still snagged me. To be honest, which is also why like Imric is a danger for me too. But also, like, so like looking at the men in Inquisition, like, Cullen is just so good.
Yeah.
It's like, you can't romance Dorian unless you're playing a man, because he's gay.
Cullen was my personal kryptonite, because I am just absolutely vicious when it comes to a good-looking man who is a little bit shy, gets kind of nervous around you.
You can fluster easily. And it's you can, ooh.
If I can fluster you, I'm already sinking my fucking teeth in. So
and
I clocked him from a mile away.
Yeah, all of Cullen's little like heart options are really just you flustering him. So it's very hard to resist.
Yeah. So he was immediately from the jump, and it's a very cute romance. It's so sweet, so wholesome. And I really was like looking at myself in the mirror, because I did the same shit in fucking Origins, because Alistair is a dorky, funny, flusterable guy.
They say copy paste, and Cullen got hot for Inquisition, because that man didn't have ramen noodle hair back in the. He looked rough.
He looked rough.
Alistair was still cute. Like, they spent all the available pixels to still make Alistair like attractive, because they're like, we need you to be interested. Like, Cullen, I don't know what they did to him. He was going through it.
He was
in his Templar days.
He was going through it. Yeah, and I also had a soft spot for him, because I had played a mage in Origins that he like kind of had a crush on. Yeah. And so I was like, ooh, I love that this character has been in all 3 games, and now he's a romance option, and I want to dig into this. Yeah. And then going back, replaying, finding out like all the tea, because for me, I am a big proponent of like, in those games, in order to fully understand a character, you have to romance them. So you have like,
yes,
because you get all the more like the depth of that character through the romance. And like, same stands for like Dorian is one of my favorite romances and stuff.
Yeah, I do want to finish that save. Because it will be a very cute one. I'm excited about it. Yeah, I'm still in Hinterlands hell. It takes a long time to get out of the Hinterlands.
It takes so long.
I'm still picking up elf fruit, sprig by sprig.
Yeah, playing through that shit, romancing Solus, getting heartbroken, just absolutely torn up.
Again, the most like, it's hot until it's ice fucking cold.
Yeah,
and then we live in the tundra.
I'm still playing in the days where like people were barely figuring out the fucking game, so I didn't know he breaks your fucking heart going into it.
Yeah, if you turned around and played it immediately after your first like round, you wouldn't have known.
It was gonna be like a late game reveal, but no, it's like second act, bitch. We're broken up, and you got to go through the third by yourself.
Yeah, or it's a thing where it's like, hey, we're a couple, and then like, oopsie daisy, I'm an elven god. How do we feel about that? And like, maybe we go to therapy together. And like, no, he just breaks up with you.
He just breaks up with you
before you know he's a giant wolf person.
Yeah,
which wouldn't have been a problem for any of us, really.
No, and I always played her that way. In the way, like going into Trespasser, and one of my favorite fucking moments is when your Inquisitor finally puts 2 and 2 together.
Yeah,
and it's like, I'm gonna save him, and then all of your party fucking disapproves except for Cole. I was like, yeah, my parents are getting back together. Like, all the rest of the party is like, bitch, pick yourself up. What the fuck?
Girl, stand up. Yeah, and but Cole is like, please, I just need some stability. Cole's like, I'm autistic, and I want my parents to be together.
I just want my parents to be together. Oh God, it's so good. Yeah, no. And then that consumed me for the next 10 fucking years.
Yeah.
Like, it's Solavel in hell for a reason. We've all been here burning alive for 10 fucking years, and just consuming every bit of fan art and media possible.
The fan fiction troves are plentiful.
Bountiful. But you're just fucking trying to make by. And then like, on top of everything else, like, one of my favorite things is like, so like, my favorite character is Flemeth, who is like the Witch of the Wilds and Morgan's mother. That, to me, an amazing fucking character. I love her with all of my heart, and they could never make me hate her. She's done no wrong. She's committed no crimes.
She's literally
in my
just
eyes.
A girl.
She's literally just a girl, Your Honor. And I just became obsessed with her. And especially like, once I found out who Solas was. I like went deep diving through like the elven like history and lore and the pantheon and all that stuff. So I've just been out here. And so like, especially like when you start playing through like Jaws of Hakon and other stuff, like I've told you that I have like my whole theory. I quite literally went back and played through Origins again after I finished my romance with Solas so that I could get all of like the lore kind of refreshed and stuff. And I saw the lines between like the lore behind Andraste is very parallel to the history that Flemeth will tell you about when she was younger and when she had a husband, or like the stuff that you learned through Morgan too. She had somebody, she had a lover, and then that lover was jealous, and that person was jealous, and all that other stuff. I'm like, it's very parallel to what happened with Andraste. And then also parallels what happened to Mythal.
Mythal, yeah.
And so like for me, like Flemeth at one point was just a normal mortal, but because of the parallels and like on top of her being able to cast magic and things like that, made her a viable vessel for Mythal. And I think the first iteration of that was her being Andraste. And then every descendant after that is Flemeth and Mythal's daughters. She takes them over. That's how she lives so long. And that's how she escapes death, is through her daughters.
Which I think does make sense.
Yeah.
And I think there's a very high chance that gets confirmed or denied in this one, because we're going to have to deal with all of the elven gods being just loose about town.
Yeah. Honestly.
Maybe not all of them being loose. I know like the 2 for sure come through the Fade. I assume that for sure just busted wide open. I don't know if it's just like we busted wide open and it's just oops, everybody's here, throwing ass, or if it's like just a couple and they're like, let's knit that bad boy back together. Like I don't really know.
And I guess it also depends on like, I mean, if all of the elven gods have been back there, it's presumed that all of them have been corrupted.
Yeah. They've not been doing well.
Unless some of them have been capable of escaping in the same fashion that Mythal has. Because, like, she left the Fade through a vessel because she found a vessel. If other ones were not able to do that, then they probably stayed and got corrupted or what have you. Especially through, like, if they experience... I think also the reason that Mythal was able to escape is because of the fact that, like, she was never against Fen'Harel. Like, she got offed, air quote, offed. By her own people, and that's what drove Solas to do what he did.
She was kind of in a so the I think their Mythal was probably the only one that was able to sneak, because she was not really, she was kind of grandfathered in to like the Banish the Gods clause, but she wasn't really like, if we were Solas is listing names at that point, Mythal was already quote unquote dead, right? Or presumed dead, so he didn't count. Well, it's also her. Like,
I don't think she would have had the same level of animosity towards him as the others. So I think she was able to retain a lot of her, you know, humanity, air quotes, as far as like her personhood, and escape the Fade. But if the rest of the gods had that level of animosity, again, the Fade is a place where your emotions become reality, your thoughts become reality. And so if they had a lot of negative emotions and resentment and spite and anger and all these things, it could corrupt them over time, especially with how long they spent in that bitch.
We're there, yeah.
So as far as the other ones, they're likely also corrupted.
Oh, yeah. I fully think, with the exception of Solas and Mythal, all the other gods are corrupted. It's just how many of them are we going to have to deal with in the game?
Yeah, I don't know. Because I think the whole, I read somewhere that like the ritual that we interrupt, because he said he had contingency plans.
Yeah, he had a plan to like,
I think the ritual he was trying to do before like opening the veil up was he was trying to move the elven gods somewhere else so that he could open the rift, and then we interrupted it. So that's
like
why
bind them to his will, or like control them in some way. And then like knocks over the fucking tower.
The dominoes.
And just like they're right there, like, hi, bitch.
Yeah. you opened the door to my crate and I haven't had treats in a long time.
Yeah, just an eye pressed up against the thing. It's like, oh, we're opening this bitch, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Which is why Solus is like shitting bricks when he's like, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad.
He's like, oh, we did open the door that has all of my haters.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a bad time. Yeah.
I'm wondering what that bit, if it's gonna be like a Resi 8 bit where like the game just tells you to run at some point.
I imagine so. Because like, the fuck do we do?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? The horrors of the Veil are
run.
busting through before he even opened the door?
Yeah, no.
And then mom and fucking dad are back there? Well, not mom and dad, technically. Dad and a daughter, but
yeah.
Mom is off somewhere else. I just showed you to the whole thing of like, I just realized that Morrigan in the trailer has Mythal's crown that Flemeth wears
which scares me.
in Inquisition. And so I was like, either she's already done it, and because obviously like Solus does his little thing where he like air quote kills Mythal so that he can regain a lot of his like
but she was passing some soul through the Fade, through the Illuvian before then.
Mythal is never dead in my eyes. That bitch has eluded death like fucking Voldemort with Horcruxes and shit. So I'm like, she's done it once before. She'll fucking do it again. She is always 3,000 steps ahead of every fucking body else.
Yeah. Well, and the thing with like the Well of Sorrows is like I've always had my Inquisitor drink from the Well of Sorrows.
Yeah.
Probably because I like her to be able to hear, Flemeth Mythal, but also because if it's pretty much confirmed that like, Flemeth is Morrigan's mother, and that relationship is already very fraught and controlling. Mm-hmm. But if Flemeth is also Mythal, then it's like, well, Morrigan's going to be under the control of her mother. Yeah. Which you don't want. But also, depending on what we carry over from Inquisition, it's either like you have Morrigan fully being a puppet of her mother, or your Inquisitor is.
Yeah.
Which both would be really bad.
Yeah. It's also something of like, it's been referenced before that like, and Flemeth mentions it herself whenever you ask her, like, is it Flemeth? Is it Mythal? It's technically both, because Mythal just like so perfectly integrates.
Yes. They've kind of become whoever
they become one person. So in my mind, if it's like, if in that moment it's Mythal escaping and Flemeth dying at Solus's hands or whatever, so he can regain a fraction of his power, then it's Mythal that approaches Morrigan trying to combine. So it's like, technically it could still be Morrigan's will, and she just accepts Mythal into her the way her mother has.
That's true. That would be less fucky than
so it could still be Morrigan's will, but then there's the aspect of like, before, whenever we thought it was going to be Solus being the main antagonist of these games, I always thought of that as being kind of fucky, because like, what if what Solus is doing and Mythal having been got by him at the end now are on opposing factions?
Yeah. So like, your Inquisitor,
if your Inquisitor is under her like thrall, has to like deal a killing blow, or he ends up having to kill the Inquisitor in turn.
Well, it's also because in Inquisition, like, if you've romanced Solus and you drink from the well, Solus has a really big and negative reaction. He's like, to the Inquisitor, quote unquote, selling herself into the service of an elven god, which, because it's not him, right? If we're being like, there's so much stuff. It's like, once you know that, everything Solus says is just like, motherfucker.
Yeah, you little bitch.
Yeah. So it's like, he's very upset about that. And I'm like, well, that's a lot of big feelings, bud. And I was like, well, that would be really bad if it was like an Inquisitor fighting Solus thing, but now it almost seems like Solus is like in the weird in between Shadowlands for safekeeping and is more of like an advisor.
Yeah. But again, it's also like, I don't see with how he's been, I don't see a world in which like, yeah, right now the top impending threat is the dogs are out of their fucking crate and we need to go deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
But if that gets dealt with and Solus is still like, cool, now I'm going to keep doing my shit, and that's clearly against what everybody else wants, then I feel like Morrigan would try to stop him and like implement the Inquisitor or force the Inquisitor to do so. Because if anyone's going to be able to stop him, it's her. And if he is still on that trail of like, no, this has to get done, then something traumatic's going to happen.
Yeah, and it's like, it's the hope of like, I don't know, my thought leans toward, I think like, obviously that's going to be a lot of the game, right? You know, is like trying to change Solus's mind. So, but like we had a game, well, Inquisition wasn't really that, I guess. Because, I mean, it was and it wasn't, right? It just, like, made him question or, like, doubt his plan a little bit. So it's like maybe Veilguard is actually trying to make him change his mind. And then, if there's an option where he doesn't, that would be rough, buddy.
Yeah. I mean, they've portrayed it, especially, like, within Inquisition's DLC, where it's like, are we gonna save Solus or are we gonna stop Solus?
Right.
Like those are the angles that we're going at here.
Yeah.
So I do think there may be an angle of like, the good ending is like finally convincing him against doing what he's trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
Ergo saving him. But if you can't convince him, you do have to kill him.
And the scary part is like, what if that is like a Dragon Age 2-esque thing where you really have to do a ton of stuff perfectly
in order to
get that ending, which would make sense because it would be a hard thing to do. And then it's like, well, damn, then we still have to live through the rough playthrough where you have to like stab the boy.
Yeah. I mean, just with everything that happens in Inquisition and then Trespasser and like that Trespasser scene where you get to just go through a fucking mile long of dialogue wheel with him.
Truly, and it's like I've watched compilations of like all of their whole range of responses.
Yeah. And no matter what, it's still just he's resigned to like being miserable and doing the thing and whatever, and doesn't matter what the fuck you say, he's gonna go do it. And then like me just recently like listening through the first episode of that Vows and Vengeance, so like Solus shows up and again is doing some fuck shit. Solus he does have a on his fuck shit. I was like, it's been 10 years. He's still on his fuck shit. And I was like, man, it's gonna be...
You're making it hard to empathize with you.
So hard to fix you.
You're like, let me fix you. I don't want to have to stab the big dog.
War crimes.
I don't want to stab the big dog.
God, it's...
he has so many eyes and I don't want to stab the big pupper.
I know. Like, but I've been resigned to myself since Inquisition that I was like, no, this is a tragic romance. It's gonna end bad. It's gonna end bad. And I'm both eagerly excited for it and also ready to just like fucking cry my eyes out.
But it could be a tragic romance in the way of like, oh, Solus realizes the error of his ways and it's still not enough. Right? Like, that's a tragedy. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be, hey, we have to kill him now. I'm not resigning myself to that until it's necessary.
I don't know that, like, I remember having like fucking maladaptive daydreams of like, I don't know that it's that, but I could almost see a world in which you do convince him, but then the Inquisitor gets got like right in that fucking moment by...
I could live with that.
I'd be like sad. One of Solus's own people, like his spies or his whatever.
Yeah. Like and then
like he just has to live with the fact that he did this. I could see that.
I could see that. Listen, don't make me kill the big dog.
Don't make me kill the big dog.
I don't want to kill I know he bite.
Not
but
friendly.
I don't want to kill him.
Nervous.
Nervous.
Very nervous.
When we saw those 2 seconds of clip that we saw of Big Forbidden Doggo, I was like, I need the AO3 community
to step their pussy up.
To take to the field. I need the people to come back.
I need the content so fast and expeditious.
I'm not okay.
Mm-mm.
I'm not gonna handle it well.
I've only been worse the more edits happen. They really give us 3 seconds and we take a mile.
Clip. We get a fresh frame and we're like, great, time to make new edits. And I was like, yes, this is correct.
We take a fucking mile with that shit. The fact that I found out that there was more I saw more Latin men from fucking Antiva, and I was like, who the fuck are these guys?
You text me at Tiffany, you're like, bitch, are you up? I was like, yes.
I was like, I'm dying here.
I was like, who are these Latin men?
I screamed.
I think they're all too young to be Dorian, because I saw I sent it to you.
I saw who Dorian is.
I saw Cursed Dorian, and I was like, I refuse to accept that, because I've been waiting for Hot Dorian, and if they fucked us, because I'm playing this on a PlayStation, I can't mod that shit. If I have to buy this game on my laptop too to mod out Scary Dorian, I'm going to be mad.
It's just a matter. It's the insult to injury for me on what they've done to Dorian is that there's no way.
It's not confirmed until it might be better. It's not confirmed until the game is in hand.
Maybe that was a bad angle.
Also, because you have Luke, you've made hot brown men already. Yeah. Just copy paste. You already have the base.
Well, I know it's years have gone by, so he is supposed to be older, but
you've made Emmerich.
You're Emmerich, but
I keep putting an R in there.
Emmerich.
Blend the hot Latin men and Emmerich. Dorian.
Just do that.
Just combine them.
Yeah. No, the insult to injury for me is that you're telling me that this absolute cunty ass diva didn't have skincare the whole time he was in Tevinter?
Don't do a Gortash to me. Don't do me that way.
Don't tell me he's a young, handsome man with an easy smile and make him look like a man about to ask me for a cigarette at a dive bar.
He hasn't washed his ass in 6 months. Don't do that to me. He can be the same. Just polish him up, add a few fancy new pixels.
Add some grays.
Give him some gray hair. That's it. He doesn't need to have a fucking
jowls.
Weird Count Chocula beard or whatever the fuck is going on there. I saw, it was a grainy frame, and I just sent it on TikTok. I was like, I'm scared. I was like, you couldn't see it super clearly, and that was good. But again, I'm playing this on my TV. And so if Scary Dorian is in 4K and the Broodmother's in 4K, I'm not going to make it.
Yeah, you're going to have to
get
that bitch on
especially not going to make
PC.
it if we also have to kill the doggo. I'm not going to be doing well.
Instances in which I will not be here anymore. No. Yeah, it's going to be a time. It's going to be a time. It's coming out tomorrow at 11 a.m. for us.
Yeah, and I don't get to play it until I get home on Friday.
I will be breaking speed laws to get back home because I will be somewhere when it releases and get home as soon as possible in order to play.
Yeah, you're probably going to finish it over the weekend.
It's a
I'm definitely planning to stretch it out through the election. Although I guess by the time this episode goes live, the election will have already occurred.
Yeah. Haunting thoughts to end
Feel free to leave that sound in, okay? Because that part just sums up where I'm at emotionally.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It's time. Well, thank you guys so much for letting me fucking rant and rave, because this is the demon I've become and the demon I will continue to be.
Yes.
For the days ongoing as I cease to exist to my friends and family.
The fresh content.
The fresh content. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. And we will see y'all next time. Bye.
Bye.
Table Talk is a podcast brought to you by Mythos Media Productions, bringing you a new episode every Wednesday, wherever you get your podcasts. Find us on Instagram and TikTok at Table Talk RPG, or check us out at our website, mythosmediaproductions.godaddyscites.com. All business inquiries can reach out to us via email at info@mythosmediaproductions.com.